Right bracket Chapter 10. Statements to James E. Talmage. By Carter Grant. Carter Grant was a seminary teacher and principal, as well as a nephew to Heber J. Grant. His belief in the relief mine caused him considerable conflict with the general authorities of the church, but he aptly defended his beliefs. Some of his defenses of the mine were brought out in a series of 4 of his letters to Apostle James E. Talmage, dated September 7, 9, 30 and October 5, 1931. Also included in this chapter is Carter Grant's notes from my journal, dated July 14, 1934. Letter 1 September 7, 1931. When we were together last Wednesday, you spoke regarding the portal of a long straight tunnel now being drilled, saying that you picked or pointed to a place where it might, in your judgment, if begun here, cut the bottom of Coil's shaft, and you wondered how near the present tunnel was from this spot on the north side of the canyon, down toward the bottom that you suggested. I was going to tell you then, but it slipped my mind. His tunnel is not in the same canyon at all where his shaft is, Water Canyon, but is northwest about a 1/4 of a mile, over in another canyon one you could not see into when you were at the mine. This is why the tunnel is running 40 degrees south of east. No one expected him to go over into that canyon and begin a tunnel until Tuesday morning, January 6, 1914, when Brother Coil presented himself to the breakfast table where 20 or 25 men were present, saying, "Well, I had a dream last night, seeing right back at the exact spot where I am to start that long tunnel that I saw in my first dream, but did not see where to start it. I know now, it is over in the canyon north of us, down toward the bottom. I saw 2 bare spots on the side hill, one above the other. We are to begin on the lower one. I went around, in my dream, about 300 feet west, and stood against some small trees and leaned over, looking toward this lower bare place, and I was shown that if I would direct the workings regularly from this point, we would get everything in the long tunnel that I was shown in my dream, getting the first water at 300 feet, the place to the winds at about 1,000 feet. And slick wall, and then I was to get down on my knees and see daylight from the turning down place, the last turn towards the rich ore, some 100 feet below the tunnel. I am told that this was a great shock to the men. Indeed, it was to me, for at that time I had supposed that the long tunnel would come out on the side of Water Canyon when it was made. I then owned a couple hundred shares of stock in the mine, and looked forward to a speedy realization of values-relief- as Brother Coil always puts it. Without sending anyone down through the waist-deep snow that January morning seeking the bare spots, Brother Coil designated 3 men, telling them to get their picks, shovels, drills, and powder, and he would accompany them down to the place of beginning. With many misgivings the men followed down the gully, wallowing in the deep snow, repeating constantly that they would never find any bare spots in a snowed-in canyon, deep beneath the shadows of the ridges. The story is that every part of the dream was fulfilled exactly, and the work was begun immediately. No surveys, no measurements, nor anything. The tunnel is in an ideal place for taking out ore should any be encountered, being but a half-mile above the canal on an easy grade for the road. Right bracket When the mine was closed 5 months later, for 6 years, this tunnel was about 200 feet long. When the day for opening, in September 1920, came, it was found that all the windlasses in the upper workings were rotten, the stations all unsafe and things generally in a tumble-down condition, so instead of drilling forward in both places, the lower one was chosen. And from then until now all efforts have been upon the lower workings. Letter 2 September 9, 1931. Brother Coil stated that he will eventually connect directly with the old shaft running to the top of the mountain, and that this shaft will be used for ventilation. The old shaft, according to what Brother Coil told Brother Grant, is about 1,400 feet as measured along the entire excavation. Brother Coil stated that in his earlier dream, or the original dream, at about 1,000 feet in from the portal of the tunnel, he plainly saw a red iron formation in the top of the tunnel, which he was to follow, by drifting in a southerly direction, until he struck a big white vein, and then he was to go down until he got his ore. Which he said would be a vein about 18 feet wide and 18 feet high of a reddish-brown formation running easterly under the tunnel. He also stated that a point about 1,000 feet farther in, which would be 2,000 feet from the mouth or portal of the tunnel, he saw a white vein about an inch wide on the north side and about 18 inches wide on the south side, which if he would follow out, he would reach 5 distinct veins of very rich ore, and that he would find platinum ore in one of those veins, and that these 5 veins would contain twice as much value as he would get out of the winds located at the point 1,000 feet in from the portal. He stated that when he got his ore in these 5 veins, that a great depression of business would be on the country lasting 4 years, and that he would take his ore out in time to be a great relief to those who were interested in the company. He stated that he would get this ore put out in the side drift at about the same time at which he would reach the slick wall or his turn-down place, 3,000 feet from the mouth of the portal, which would be right under the bottom of the old shaft. He stated that in his dream he saw the side drift produce first at the 2,000-foot point in from the portal, and the winds at the 1,000-foot point comes second, and that next, that is in third place, he would reach ore at the end of the tunnel, by sinking down about 100 feet as described. Brother Grant states that he has inspected the mine, and he finds the formations as now revealed to be precisely those that had been described by Brother Coyle, as having been seen by him in his dream. Brother Grant stated that he and 10 or 12 other college graduates, 2 of them with their doctor's degrees, had investigated this, and feel sure that this man, Brother John H. Coyle, has actually seen things ahead of him, either from the positive or negative spiritual power. He also stated that he and this group are now watching the procedure very carefully, and are making definite check upon what Brother Coyle has said, and what he is encountering in the working of the mine. Letter 3 September 30, 1931. According to my promise to you of September 9 and 10 when talking to you at your office, I am sending a few more of our observations regarding the Coyle mine, or as it is sometimes called, the Relief Mine. I shall endeavor to be strictly truthful, basing my statements upon no preconception or prejudices one way or the other. Seemingly, those possessing the fewest facts are doing the most criticizing. Our group, however, is delaying judgment to wait for all of the facts to come in. As, however, we are college men, we are looking ahead to a day when we shall pass judgment most civilly. We shall hold nothing back on either side, giving our unbiased conclusions of the whole matter. In no way, shape, or form are we carrying our investigation forward with subtle or fraudulent intent. No one can truthfully affirm that we have not found the biggest believe it or not affair in the wide world. Really it's worth the price of 10 gallons of gas to take a ride up to the Dream Mine, and listen to the manager, John H. Coyle, predict the future. When we were there the last of August, he unhesitatingly declared that all sorts of trouble was still ahead of the mines and the stock market, saying that the time was drawing close, the days for the bread lines to begin lengthening in Salt Lake City, and he says that he told President Gardner, more than a year ago, that something would happen to the Republican Party, letting the Democrats take the presidency at the next election, and that things would continue to get worse until that took place. The reason I speak of elections is because of a past experience I had with Brother Coyle's predictions. In 1911, I went to Leland Ward and had a long talk with Bishop Coyle, staying with him all day. Among other things, he rehearsed to me a rather peculiar dream. Not only did he give it to me, but he also told it to several hundred others, saying that he had seen that the Democrats would win in 1912 and again in 1916. At the time of my visit I was a juryman, passing judgment on the first white slave case tried in this state. I said, I can give you something to think about. There is a bishop living near Spanish Fork who says he has had a peculiar dream, seeing an elephant, lying flat, representing the national political powers, and the party able to roll the animal over, would gain power at right bracket the next election. The Republicans worked and worked, lifting it part way, but they failed. Then the Democrats took hold of it and turned it over. 4 years later the Republican Party came to nearly turning it over, and for a few minutes it seemed they were successful, but they couldn't get it over. Then the Democrats came and succeeded. This bishop declares he is sure from his vivid dream that the Democrats will take the election for the next 2 times. Well, Attorney Richard and I and hundreds of others, having heard the dream, watched the Democrats win both times. Brother Coyle declared that he had not dreamed about the 1932 election, but that it came to him so strong that he believed he was right. When his dream about the elephant came true, a number of people bought stock, so I am informed, believing that his dream regarding the mine surely must be right, but the source that is the problem. Before the saints were driven out of Mexico, Brother Coyle told dozens of us that he dreamed of seeing the United States armies on the border. Although he saw but very little fighting, he saw the saints all driven and fleeing for their lives, that the restoration seemed slow and difficult. After he had had this dream, or at least after he told us about it, President Joseph F. Smith went to Mexico, and when he returned, he praised the faithfulness of the people greatly, suggesting that it would be a wonderful thing if they could have a temple there. Some of us criticized Bishop Coyle, telling him that his dream was from the wrong source. To this he replied, if President Smith had seen in a dream what I saw, he would know that there would not be enough saints left in Mexico to support a temple. Someone went and told President Smith what Brother Coyle had said, possibly twisting it somewhat. Since you know President Smith's very adverse attitude toward Brother Coyle and the dream mine, you know, possibly, how he took it. I am not saying from what source John H. Coyle got his information regarding his statements about Mexico. The fact that concerns us in our investigation is that he has told such things before they have happened. We shall carry out our investigation just as carefully whether we think he is led of God or of the devil. Without question, it's one or the other. We have already arrived at that conclusion. People who say he isn't are wholly ignorant of the facts in the case. After John H. Coyle made his prediction on silver, it rose to $1.35 per ounce. Still in the face of his anxious stockholders, he continued to affirm that it would lose its value before he got his values beneath the capstone. Then, too, how dare he predict that in his long tunnel, he would encounter great breaks back to the west, 100 feet or so across, turning exactly opposite to the general formation, all dipping to the east. How did he know that he was to find walls that would parallel his workings, that by running between them some 2,500 feet away from the tunnel so straight that you can see the portal of the tunnel from 3,500 feet in the mountain? Of course, walls are not uncommon. But how did they chance to run 40 degrees south of east, fulfilling his prediction, causing many investigators to come through with means, keeping the men going? How did he know, so he could say most positively, we will get drinking water when we have gone in 300 feet? It will not be sufficient to run out the tunnel, however. Then when asked how far he must go to get the stream that would run out, it was suggested to him 1,500 feet. No, he said positively. And the same answer was given to 1,600 feet, 1,700, 1,800, 1,900, and 2,000. But he declared, we will strike it about 2,100 feet, and it will come down this ditch and over the dump as I have seen it. If we don't get water before we go 2,200 feet, we won't get any ore. If one is false, the right bracket other is also. At 2,100 feet, no miner in the world would have predicted it, but hundreds can bear witness. But as to the source of his inspiration, that's another question. Our business is to examine the facts, deciding if he does really see and predict the future, then testing to see if his prophecies come true. One day in 1929, previous to the breaking of the stock market, several of us had a talk with Sister Coyle, asking her many questions. She said words about as follows: John has dreamed many remarkable things. Never have I got up in the morning and had him say, I dreamed so and so last night. It was very plain and vivid, but what that dream has come to pass. He wrote me several dreams from the mission field, dreams that he had about us here at home, which proved true to the letter. One especially I remember regarding the coming of the railroad through our property, and of how it would change its course, so our property would not be ruined. This dream, mind you, came after the surveys had been made through the very center of our farm, cutting it right in half. It came true, nevertheless. At one time he wrote me about dreams he had regarding how to save himself and the elders under his charge from the mobs, and they were all true. One June morning in 1929 he got up and turning to me in the most solemn manner, he predicted 4 months from today Wall Street is going to crash, causing a terrible financial panic in the United States. Thousands of people on every side will be going busted. While the little banks everywhere will be going broke, the bigger ones will become crowded with money. Property holders are going to be hard hit. Sheep and cattle are going off. A terrible condition is ahead, beginning 4 months from today. He then told me he had seen it in a dream, and knew it was coming as sure as the sun rose. He said also that before these trying financial days were over, that the country would enter the 4 years of distressing times, that he has been shown 2 different times in dreams, seeing that he should store grain against the years of famine that are coming. He says that the mine will come out before these hard times are over, giving him plenty of means with which to buy grain and other things he expects to store. To be sure, in 1929 we looked forward, waiting to see what calamity would come in October. While at priesthood meeting on Saturday evening, October 5, I was somewhat aroused by President Ivan's statement. According to my journal it reads, "The depressing days to come will require all our individual resources, as well as the resources of this church." He then warned the people to free themselves from debt, etc., and, to save my soul, at that time, I could not see any chance for Brother Coyle's prediction or President Ivan's coming to pass. But the financial crash is now a matter of fact that no one would think of disputing. I know this, that my ZCMI stock tumbled from $105 to $20. Even wheat went off about 3/4 its former value. Did Brother Coyle actually dream of the crash, or did he make a wild guess hitting it exactly? Letter 4, October 5, 1931. Brother Coyle greeted us very cordially, stating that he was pleased to have Dr. Pack come and look over the mine. As we began our journey into the mountain, the workings all told comprising more than a mile, Dr. Pack began explaining what he could see, while Brother Coyle, upon being questioned, related what he had seen in a dream along the way, directing him how to run his tunnels, etc. At 300 feet from the portal, Brother Coyle declared that at that spot he had seen and had predicted before starting into the tunnel, that they would reach drinking water, and several men present bore witness to its truth. At about 1,000 feet in, a red formation was pointed out, leading about 20 feet south through a tunnel, then it struck a white formation leading down into the mine, 265 feet. Due to foul air, however, we could not get into it. At this point Dr. Pack stated very positively that the material between the walls that was being called a vein was nothing more than ground-up matter within a great break or fault, giving no indication of ore bodies or values. The next objective, 1,000 feet farther in, was the side drift, but this was left to be examined upon our return from the face, some 3,300 feet from the portal. At 2,200 feet, Brother Coyle related how he had seen that between 2,100 and 2,200 feet, he would get a ditch full of water, the ditch he had compelled the men to dig some 2,200 feet dry, ready for the water he claimed to have seen in his dream. At this point also, several men spoke up stating that they knew Brother Coyle spoke the truth. As we passed through various paralleling walls, Dr. Pack made it plain that such walls might be found at various other places in the mountain, and that because he chanced to hit between them as he had predicted he would, or rather claimed he had seen in a dream that he would, was of no value to the geologist in making his examination, neither was it indicative for ore bodies or veins. At this statement Brother Coyle stated that those straight walls through which his arrow-like tunnel was to pass were markers to him that he had plainly been shown while traveling through these workings, accompanied by a messenger who pointed them out very decidedly, saying that if the tunnel passed between them, Brother Coyle would know he was directing his men properly. At the end of the tunnel where other paralleling walls were encountered as seen in my dream, as Brother Coyle puts it, and to which a number again bore testimony. Dr. Pack asked why shaft was being sunk along the slick-sided wall down the fault line, displacement or fracture. To this the promoter said, this place right here, the paralleling walls for about 40 feet, the white on the north, the black one on the south, the open fissure running in the center of the workings, the white formation looking like calcite or spar, the walls in the bottom, forming a hog's back as I called it in my dream, then the slick wall coming up in front of the bill left parenthesis. Precisely as I saw in my dream we shall sink here for about 20 feet. Then if all the other things show up that I have seen, we will go down through the soft formation for about 100 feet to the capstone. But we shall have to be extremely careful, for the messenger, showing me through them, declared we would have to timber if we put in heavy shots. How far down are you now? Requested the doctor. About 10 feet. What do you expect to find below your capstone, as you call it? We will be about 2 months going 4 feet, getting through the capstone. That's the way I have it. Once through the hard stone, however, we will go immediately into a white rock containing rich gold ore in a leaf-like formation. Then we will sink on this rich ore about 150 feet, drifting a little to the northeast, then the vein turns flat, running in a huge body to the southeast. You say you have seen that in your dream? Yes, sir. Are you sure this is your "turn-down" as you call it? No, sir. Not yet. While it fills the bill thus far, I cannot say until I go about 20 feet. I shall know for sure by then. If this isn't the turn down, then I must come out of this hole, drilling on into the mountain, seeking another place exactly like this one. As far as I can see yet, it is okay. The men, even Brother Grant here, want me to sink at this place, saying that if this is not the place I have described, I will never get another. Well, at 20 feet I'll declare myself. From here down, providing it proves out, it will be easy going, for I have seen that we would put in a small round, then pick and spade most of it. Then, too, I was to find low-grade values at the turning down place, running in values down to the capstone. During the 10 feet we have gone, we are getting $1 or $2 in gold and some in silver. As far as I am able to judge, said the doctor, you have nothing to show. No igneous formation, no signs of heat. In fact, I see positively everything in your disfavor. Nothing in your favor. If Providence has hidden vast quantities of rich gold ore only 100 feet below us, it surely is sealed in well, with no traces whatever showing. I want you to know I am judging this matter as a geologist. I see no reason for sinking here, expecting fabulous deposits. We then withdrew down the track about 1,000 feet toward the portal, reaching the side drift, comprising about 1,000 feet of tunnels. Following a very careful examination of what has been designated as veins, Dr. Pack pronounced them nothing but worthless breaks or faults, filled not with vein material, but with a ground-up formation, carrying from $1 to $6 in values. He again gave no hope whatever for rich deposits. Upon talking with me yesterday noon for more than an hour, and from what I saw at the mine Saturday, Dr. Pack convinced me beyond a shadow of a doubt that from the geological standpoint, the mine is worthless. The material between the walls running low-grade gold, I found not to be veins as I had supposed. At least I am taking the doctor's statement. He should know. Notes from my journal July the 14th, 1934. Wednesday, March the 4th, 1931. Last night brothers William A. Jones, Clyde Hood, Philip Tadge, Richard Sontag, and I went to Brother Coyle's, arriving at 8 p.m. After asking each one of us about the hard times, getting what we knew, Brother Coyle opened up, declaring that they would grow worse and worse each week, that even the church would become so hard-pressed that the cry of the needy could not be satisfied. Brother Coyle then showed us some of the big wall that had come directly across the tunnel in the face, through which he is now drilling, toward his turn down. My, but what a time they have had down in the winds. After shooting out the black wall, until about 2 feet of soft formation had come, into which one could drive the pick without any difficulty, making a good place for a fisher, Brother Coyle felt impressed that due to the fact that the 50-foot hole up above the men had refused any longer to take the water, that now was the time to have Barrel dream come true. As the water filled in, he gave orders to pull the pump, taking it up some 75 feet. Then up came the water for about 50 feet, following them. He declares that true to what he has been shown, the ore will be found in Merrill's side, then he will go down into the winds, and the fisher will be found and drain the water away. At this point the big fish in the bottom with entrails out and heads off, all ready for the frying pan, will be picked up without any difficulty. Then, since the fissure will be open, all pumping troubles will cease. Then I write, if that isn't a marvelous prediction, there never was one uttered. Think of it, I continue, more than 50 feet of water, and still rising in the bottom of a 300-foot shaft in the very heart of a waterlogged country, and still Bishop Coyle firmly declares that soon after the values are reached by his son, Merrill Coyle, that this water will begin making its getaway, as he puts it, drawing off into an open crack or fissure which the Creator arranged would lie at the very spot most needed to help this work along. When the values and fissure are reached, he said, we are to drift eastward on a wedge-shaped vein. Then at 40 feet, the vein will open to 18 feet of sacking ore. Brother Coyle made many predictions last evening regarding the terrible days of sorrow immediately ahead. He has been shown that the time will soon come when he cannot buy. 10 days later my journal says, Saturday, March the 14th, 1931, William A. Jones, Henry Armstrong, Clyde Hood, Horace Brough, and I went to the mine. In Merrill's side they have turned off to the right, following a wide vein of material showing large quantities of iron and other minerals. The water in the winds is at a standstill, 50 feet deep, waiting for the fissure to be opened. Since Bishop Coyle has seen this fissure, I am perfectly sure that it will be opened. Now as to storing wheat. Since this subject has been upon Brother Coyle's mind for some time, he stated to us that on Friday, March 13th, while coming out of the tunnel, inspiration came to him like a voice speaking, telling him to build double cement bins on the side hill near the powder magazine, one below the other, so that he could let the grain from the first bin run down into the next, and then down into the third and fourth. These long cement tanks or bins were to begin at the upper road and stretch down the hill, so that with the gates open between the bins, grain that was dropped into the top one would easily find its way down the incline to the lowest level. Then I write, Brother Coyle was exceedingly happy over the proposition, knowing as he does that the matter had been revealed by the Lord. This has completely upset our former plans of building elevators, etc. Then, too, this plan, says Bishop Coyle, will put the grain upon our property where no one can molest it, where we can make distribution as we see fit. All eyes are to look toward us for relief.